am not what the mainstream media would describe as the archetype of masculinity. I'm a man, but I have a lot of feelings. A lot of them are about my cats. But I talk with my hands. I have more makeup than my girlfriend, and I have a vagina. I'm a man, but the only time I would ever call myself a man's man is when I'm talking about how gay I am. And I know it's not sexy or manly to admit I have trauma, but there's a reason my current therapist is the second longest relationship I've ever had. Until my 24th birthday, my parents taught me ownership of my body was a privilege I wasn't old enough to have earned yet. When I was younger, I was tall for my age, and they thought I should play basketball. I had absolutely no desire to play basketball. So, for 4 years, they regularly brought up how much they would love for me to play basketball. How much I would love to play basketball. How other people would love me if I played basketball. They said they'd finally leave me alone if I only just gave it a try, which turned out to be not the case, as I found out over the next 4 years of playing, never apparently trying hard enough to matter. But how could I know I didn't like it unless they made me? How could I know what I wanted? When I was 14, one day I came home to a dangerous silence. I could feel my mother's electric rage emanating from the kitchen. Before I even knew why, I knew genuine fear for my safety. My parents saw I had come out as bisexual on Facebook. My mother didn't speak to me for 2 weeks, couldn't even be in the same room with me. She said she knew I wasn't gay, as if my attraction to women was a dare some kid at school made me do. I wasn't allowed to have Facebook again until second semester senior year of high school. She asked me how I could be so stupid for wanting to be gay. How could I know what I wanted? When I was 20, I stopped shaving my legs, but my mother noticed at 22 and asked if I was trying to make myself ugly because of a sexual assault I had experienced the previous July. Because the only reason someone with a vagina would make unconventional decisions about their body is because they are broken. She said it wasn't me, it was the trauma. She said it was those no-good friends I had started hanging out with that convinced me I was gay. They said I had never been so defiant before. They said I had never made these decisions before. How could this rebellion against their plan be authentic? How could these disagreeable self-definitions be anything other than someone else's influence? How could I have any idea what I wanted? On my 24th birthday, I told my parents I was nearly 3 months on testosterone during an argument they instigated regarding whether or not trans women had the right to use the restroom in public. They laughed at me. They said they'd known me my whole life and they just couldn't see me as a man. As if the nosebleed seats they'd had when watching my life somehow gave them deeper insight than the lead actor of the show. They knew with certainty I wasn't a man. They said this wasn't me, this was a hysterical reaction to being in a new phase of my life. They said that this was the work of those no-good friends I started hanging out with in college. They said this was a sympathetic reaction because I felt sorry for trans people. How could I be this thing they didn't agree with? How could I possibly know myself better than they did? How could I possibly know what I wanted? A lifetime of gaslighting has left me deep in my neuroses. My heart bones have early onset osteoporosis from lack of being fed. I've got rice paper for skin and overcooked angel hair pasta for nerves, soggy and fragile from a lifetime of soaking in fight or flight or freeze. My therapist has spent years trying to help me convince my body it is no longer in danger. My partner has spent years trying to help me stop apologizing for every carbon molecule I occupy. I have spent years trying to unhook myself from inherited expectations, binaries, and normativities, trying to learn to love the parts of me society isn't ready to celebrate, trying to give myself permission to be a flower-loving pansexual man, to be full of feelings, full of love, full of softness in a world that values jagged edges and a minimalist approach to emotion in men. I have spent years Trying to learn compassion for my parents who still aren't sorry they hurt me, who still don't believe me when I tell them who I am, who have done nothing to deserve forgiveness. I have spent years trying to convince myself that I deserve to find out what the other side of healing will feel like. If manhood requires stoicism, I will never measure up. But what if being a man meant owning our emotions? What if instead of venting our suffering and anger onto someone more vulnerable, we expanded our emotional vocabulary to have the language to admit when we are broken? I have inherited a lifetime of carcinogenic doubt and shame with a Venus-shaped risk factor assigned at birth, but I will not let the cancer of trauma consume me. And I refuse to swallow toxic masculinity as chemotherapy. If manhood means bravery, then I have never been more masculine than when I finally learned to embrace my pain. It is ugly, messy, and complicated, but I am finally able to say it is mine, and it is not all that I am. I am a man whose Snapchat story is 50% cats, 40% selfies, and 10% affirmations. I am overzealous with emojis in my text communication. I'm part of a podcast that discusses queer and gender issues. I am a devotee of consensual flirtation, coffee connoisseur, critic of the gender binary, doting cat dad, intersectional feminist, anti-racist, critic of late capitalism, and lifetime poet. I am a man and a part of the Me Too movement. I am a man who's had to navigate puberty again, on my own, with full adult responsibilities and expectations to maintain. I'm a man who has owned her femininity, reclaimed their sexuality, reclaimed his masculinity, and is now reclaiming his big, vibrant feelings, his love of floral prints, his sweet canary heart beating in a ribcage that is always open. I'm a man who has had to reclaim every most fundamental aspect of his identity. I am a queer, trans, emotional man. I am beautiful, messy, complicated. I am a man, and nothing will keep me from that anymore.